So we're going to get on to what we're actually talking about in today's episode, which is broadly lucky socks and superstitions. But before we do that, I just want to play a lovely little soundbite that I got from Rick.
Gosh.
Whilst he was cycling. So this is at the end of day one. He looks lovely. You're going to have to take my word for it here because it's a wonderful video.
I'm absolutely buggered. Can't feel anything. I just feel
What you can't see if you're only listening to this via audio, Rick has his cycling jersey up, fully unzipped as well.
Yeah, you're a very, very pink
good.
man.
And that was what, day one?
That was day one. That was
4.
That was up some awful pass in North Wales where I got
it looks beautiful.
Oh, it was beautiful. Yeah, my face wasn't beautiful. It was just miserable.
It
only got worse after that. It was unbelievable. The end of day one, we sat down and we'd done 87 miles in day one. And I just stupidly opened up Google Maps and went, how long does it take to get to Brecon? And on Brecon, on the road route, was 87 miles. Not on the Sheep Pass route, which we were taking, which is 93 miles on day 2. And I was already, suffering from undercarriage carnage.
But bear in mind that you had to be persuaded by us that you needed specific cycling shorts.
Yeah.
Are you glad you had those?
Yeah, but they kept falling down because I brought the wrong ones because they didn't go over my shoulders. They were,
Oh, you didn't buy the ones with the strap?
No, they didn't have any left because I left it too much last minute. But honestly, my tyres were actually great. They stuck it out for the whole way.
Your tyres.
Tyres were great.
Oh, brilliant.
So which is better though, running or cycling?
I've got to say, running?
Yeah, there we go. Well, that nicely segues in.
We knew that already.
Yes,
Andy,
exactly.
let's go back to running. So
Yeah.
today we are going to be talking about running superstitions.
Yeah.
Apparently there's some science behind this, so stay tuned for that. Andy has
Sarah
all-
doesn't believe me.
I'm sceptical, but Andy's got all the know-how.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I've got all of your running superstitions. We asked the Running Channel audience what
Yeah.
theirs are, and there are some absolutely incredible. Rick has no idea what's about to come, but stay tuned, mate. It's going to be great.
Okay.
Andy, how's your week of running been?
It's been good. We started up our run club again.
Yeah, we did.
Which is amazing. So we had, close to 100 people come. Andy, who coaches us both, was there to kind of, make me look even more boring than I do already. He showed me up with his extrovert coaching style.
Mm-hmm. We split the group into 2 in the middle, and we did a conga by doing strides.
Oh, did Andy do his set warm-up routine?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
he's got that down pat now.
Yeah.
Absolutely nailed.
Smashed it.
Yeah. How did that go down?
They loved it, but they loved Andy more than me. So.
Oh, right, okay.
I was in Andy's
Other Andy.
group.
Other
Yeah.
Andy.
Other
Yes,
Andy.
it's
Other Andy.
confusing,
Yeah,
isn't it? I also realised just how far away this marathon that we keep banging on about is when I ran, 7K the other day. And I thought, well, I'll go at the pace that I think I want to try and run for a marathon. It's only 6 or 7K. And never has a marathon felt less achievable.
Andy Hobdell, though, on the...
Oh, no. This was private.
No.
This is private, Sarah.
We're going to let you into the kind of information that gets spilled at our Running Channel running clubs.
Yeah.
That's a lot of running in one word.
Yeah. You were put on. I was put on the spot about what time.
Andy was put on the spot. So after the run club, we sit down, we have a nice little chat. And because Andy Hobdell was there, Andy's coach, we started talking about what marathon time is he going to run in December.
Oh, in Valencia, yeah.
Yeah. So Andy's goal is just to beat Mo.
Oh yeah.
By the way, I
haven't
told
said
Mo
that publicly either. I think that was a funny thing, but that's how my brain works. Is that the Mo from the Running Channel ran his first ever sub 3 hour marathon, 2:59:48.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden I thought to myself, well, clearly that's my goal. Sorry, Mo.
Has he got that in him, Sarah, do you think?
no. No, I'm sure
I
you
don't
have.
think that either.
Although I tell you what, I saw Mo yesterday and told him this, and he did say that he is happy to pace you for the whole marathon, just to help you out a little bit.
What, so that he can out sprint me at the end?
Yeah.
I've seen through that plan. I was about to say Mo is such a legend.
I think you need to stay away from him, Andy.
Yeah.
If
Don't
you want
let
to take
him-
this
Don't
seriously.
let him get in your head. But then on the night, Andy said this to everyone, and then the other Andy, Coach Andy, was like, no. 250, mate. 250, that's what you should go for. And then...
Oh, wow. So Andy Hobdell reckons you've got
Yeah, he has moved my
250 marathon
goalposts
in
already.
you.
And bear in mind, the goalposts have moved quite a long
Yeah.
way. This went from a private thing from me where I was like, I don't care about time. I don't want to do it on the road, but I do want to complete a marathon. So
Nice
Sarah
little-
will stop banging on about it. and I was going, I'll do it on a trail. I'll do it somewhere beautiful. It won't matter how fast I run. And then all of a sudden it's become this thing where I keep moving my own goalpost. Andy moves them for me. Sarah, I think, has just goaded me into, she's baited me into this, where all of a sudden it's become this 3 hour attempt, and now somehow sub 250, which, that's really fast and scary.
Yeah, I think that happens quite a lot with marathons though, because the training for it is so, like, if in December you wanted to run a 5k PB, you wouldn't be thinking as much about it now. Whereas this always happens with marathons. You go like, oh, I'm going to be training for, 12, 14, 16 weeks. So let's set this as a goal. And then you start thinking about it for another couple of weeks. And then you're like, actually, let's set this as a goal. But don't worry, mate. It's about completing it. Yeah. I just want to be there at the 35 kilometre mark and see you cry. Are you gonna to be honest.
Are you going to watch him, Sarah? Influencer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm allowed to go, I will be there.
You're not allowed to go.
No.
Is it flat?
Yeah.
Valencia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Although apparently a few cobbles.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, I cancel it. Maybe we should push it into 2024.
No, I've already entered you, mate.
Okay. Well, I'm going to need all of the superstitions I can get to get me through it, probably. So let's talk about that. We wanted to talk about...
Good link. Very good link. Like
Thanks,
that.
mate.
Really,
So it's like
really
I'm
done.
trying desperately to get it
Yeah, really
away
well
from...
done that. Complete pro.
Okay, I hate you both.
Anyone listening to this, get ready to scout Andy. Podcasting Superman?
That's the nicest
Extraordinaire. That's the word I was
Such
thinking
a lovely compliment you just gave him.
That wasn't what I was
Call
going
him
for.
Superman.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'll take that.
Superstitions with Superman.
Yes. I think we wanted to talk about this. Someone was recently telling me about some of the stuff that Kelly Holmes had openly spoken about, and I couldn't find this anywhere else, so it might not have been her, but I'm pretty sure it was, about something silly about various different superstitions. It was, this particular example was always needing to use the same toilet before a championships, or it might have been at one specific championships, to the point where all of the other toilets were empty. And, she's banging on the door to... allegedly banging on the door to the one toilet that was occupied because that was the one that she needed to use, and ultimately that's why she won 2 Olympic golds.
Just that.
Yeah.
Forget the training.
No,
forget the
natural
shoes,
ability,
forget everything.
genetics,
Toilet.
the toilet. But then that made me think that we should talk about it, because, and then there's a distinction between probably superstition, things that become ritual, how much you believe in them, how important they end up being to you, like where you feel like you're going to run badly if you don't do them. And then I had lots of those things. So I thought maybe we should do a terrifying deep dive into my psyche.
Really?
Before we dive into what yours were,
Yeah.
I want to delve into the science a little bit, because
Okay.
you've been saying this quite a lot this week, that apparently this sometimes is backed by science. So what do you mean by this? How is a superstition, like going to the right toilet,
Yeah.
in some way helping Kelly Holmes get a gold?
Yeah, or wearing lucky socks. I know we're going to come on to that a bit later, but I think there was a massive over-index, a high percentage of people where it was sock related, was their luck or their good luck charm or their superstition. Broadly, superstition comes down to ritual, and so there has been research into whether following a ritual, and that could be saying certain things to yourself, so some sort of element of positive self-talk, or going through a particular routine, or touching a lucky talisman, or wearing something specific. Like Michael Jordan famously wore the same either underwear or set of shorts from his, I think from college, underneath his team shorts throughout his career.
Wow.
Things like that.
How long was his career?
Pretty long. I don't know whether he bought new ones, actually.
Real solid material.
Yeah, real durable. Though.
But I'm going to just read a quote from a paper, I think, from a scientific paper, that the increased levels of self-efficacy that result from activating a superstition lead to higher self-set goals and greater persistence in the performance task. So, in other words, the kind of the superstitions, the luck, the talisman that might be like putting those socks on in a specific order, wearing a specific pair of socks and not washing them all year, all of these kind of things that on the face of it are irrational.
Please wash them.
Then they give the person enacting that superstition higher levels of self-confidence to aim higher, to keep trying. And that even though it sounds tenuous, that extra belief actually has been shown to potentially relieve nervous tension, which could be something that inhibits your performance. And the confidence makes you ultimately aim higher. And, through some various tests that they did, that illusion of control over your, I guess, seemingly uncontrollable performance gives people the confidence to perform better.
That does make a lot of sense, actually, because I remember a few weeks ago you were talking about how in big competitions someone once said to you that most of the people lining up will have talked themselves out of winning, even if they, physiologically they had everything that they could to win. And it's so true. Every single time you line up in a race, there is always that element of, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you literally don't know until you cross the finish line. So I guess, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
anything that boosts self-confidence is a good thing. And I think it comes down to routine. But there's a really dangerous line. I think the toilet one is a good example of something that's out of your control.
Yeah.
So like you can, to a point, you can choose to put the same pair of socks on or put your socks on in a specific way, in a way that's not going to throw you because you can control it.
Yeah.
Unless someone washes the socks by mistake or throws them away or you lose them, then obviously that, if you're tying too much of your own self-worth or self-belief to that small thing, then that could be disastrous. But making your routine dependent, or how you think you're going to perform dependent on something that could be taken away from you.
Yeah, so it can go too
Or
far.
like the toilet might not be available. Like that's a
Did
strange
you have
example.
any in your career where looking back you were like, oh, that was a risky one to have?
Well, I had weird ones that would be boring, but then when they added up together, they created like this routine that I went through. So whenever I got to a race, you'd pick up your number. Sometimes you had it the night before, sometimes you didn't. And then I would meticulously pin it onto my vest, and redo it 4 or 5 times to make sure it was perfectly straight. The pins were in exactly the right place. But that was sort of the physical task of that, like of actually pinning something on and concentrating on that meant that's 20 minutes or however long of not thinking about nerves. And
Also, the more holes you put in your vest, the more
aerodynamic.
aerodynamics and the faster you go.
Just breathability.
Yeah.
Did
exactly.
anyone ever offer to do that for you and you were like, no?
Yeah. You'd see quite often coaches
Mo Farah or someone did ever
coaches
say.
pinning on stuff like for their athletes, and I was like, I quite liked having that sense of control. For me, it was that's something small that I could control.
Yeah.
And I definitely grew up doing things where, in hindsight, there were fairly dangerous psychological obsessions. But like I had a little tiny basketball hoop in my bedroom with one of those little balls, like tennis ball size.
How old were you?
I had like 18. No, like I don't know, like 11, 12, 13, that kind of age. And sometimes, like you're about to go to bed quite late, your parents have already told you to go to bed, and I'd like randomly shoot the ball towards the hoop and then I'd miss. And then there's something that would click in my brain that'd be like, well, I'm not going to go to bed until I've got 10 in a row. And
Wow.
And there was some nights that I'd have been there for like 2 hours because I was like,
And
well,
then,
I can't
you
go
were
to bed now.
completely knackered the day before your A levels and just couldn't perform. But then
Yeah.
you did perform, you just nailed them anyway, didn't you? Annoying.
That took a funny turn. Thanks, mate. I think that's a compliment there somewhere. But yeah, it became. There have been occasions in my adult life where that obsession of you attach. If I can do this random thing, like if I can throw my socks into the washing basket first time, then on Saturday I'm going to run I'm going to win the Olympics.
Personality, though, isn't it? So this is not all. I imagine not all GB runners were doing what you were doing. Some people had no superstitions at all. So I don't have any time for any superstition. Like, there's no way I have time to put 10 balls in a hoop before a race.
Yeah.
Literally.
You don't have the coordination either.
I don't no, that's correct. But most people who have small children would not have any time for any superstitions. Like, some people always walk underneath road signs, they have to walk underneath the road sign. Or they have to not walk underneath the road sign. Or they have to wear exactly the same trainers or tie the laces in the same way.
Well, in football, they'll tap like the...
Tap the board.
Tap a board above their head, like where that's Anfield,
like the Anfield sign.
Exactly.
Exactly.
There are some though where they're less time consuming. So I know James, Running Channel presenter, he always when I did Run to Paris with him last year, it was the first race or kind of event I'd done with him. And it wasn't until I think it was either day 3 or day 4, he ran off to do his leg, and the footage, we were looking at it after he left and we were like, was there something wrong with his shoe? And he has to, every single time he starts running, he touches the ground. Or like it doesn't necessarily have to be just before he goes across the start line, but he'll always kind of touch the ground before he starts. And that's one of his, I don't know.
And that helps. That helps him because he thinks in his mind, right, I've touched the ground, right, I'm set to go. I get the simplicity of the science behind it. Like, if that helps you, it clears your mind. It's like, I'm good to go because my head's clear.
Yeah, I think it's quite a nice routine to get in as well. But some of them are. So when I was a kid, I had loads of. I was the same as you. I wouldn't mean it to get this out of hand.
Yeah.
But if I was just like out for a walk with my parents, and when you walk on somewhere where there's tiles, and then suddenly I'd just be like, I am not stepping on any of the.
And no cracks.
No cracks.
Yeah.
And then it's like an hour later, your legs are seizing up.
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard to walk on it. Or I still have this thing to some extent where, how everyone does touch wood.
Yeah.
I have to. I've never actually told anyone this.
Yes, Sarah, this is what we're here for.
Rather than like let loads of people pretend your head's wood, rather than like touching your head once, and that for most people is enough.
Yeah.
I would have to touch it with both hands.
Yeah.
And then touch it on the other side with both hands.
Okay, now it's got weird.
And then touch it on the other side with both hands. But if at any point my two hands touch, I then have to start the whole thing again.
Medical advice.
Well, there was a few of mine that crossed over probably from. They start for good reasons often. Like something you'll do something for the first time, and then perform well, and you're like, well, I'm going to do all the same things again that are within my control. So for me, I had a routine. Once I got out on the track, I was ready to, almost on the start line, ready to go. I would do a specific kind of like couple of jumps in a specific way, like really high jumps, lifting my knees to my chest, that kind of thing. And I always did that throughout my whole career. And then I remember racing somewhere really hot and running really well. And before the race, it was so hot that I would, I had a little bottle of water. I would tip it onto my hands, sort of wash my face a little bit, and then tip a little bit onto each of my shoulders and then my head. And that became a thing, which is fine when it's 30 degrees somewhere. Yeah. But then when you're racing in like Gateshead
in January.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then it seems a bit silly. And then also I had one time when the race officials at the track, I'd put my water bottle down and someone took it away.
Oh, so it kind of blew your mind a little bit. So
I still raced fine actually that day, but it did mess with my head beforehand.
Okay, so with the science here, say you're halfway through running competitively, you're on TV, and you've just realised after 5 minutes that you did not do the 2 jumps. Does that
more like 30 seconds? Right? Andy never ran for that long.
Oh, true. Yeah. Well, in any race, whoever, does that then flick a switch in your head and go, actually, I don't think I can push myself to the full length here?
For me, no. Like Sarah's not wrong there. I didn't race for that long, and my focus broadly, I was someone who the main problem for me was before the race. So like if I could get to the start line in a positive mindset and not talk myself out of it, the moment that the race started, I was
zoned in,
my best self and totally in the zone. Like sports people talk about that, and nothing was a distraction. Sort of the crowd can't really hear you, just totally in it. I never would have thought about that sort of thing. It's more the impact that it has in those moments before the start line as to whether you are then in the right frame of mind to start. But once it started, I would never have been thinking, oh, I didn't do this X, Y, Z. But if I had been shaken up in my routine, then I would probably run less well because I've sort of already put myself in the wrong mindset.
Definitely think though that could have an effect if you're like the longer you're racing for, like in 30k in a marathon or in that 3rd, 4th kilometre in a 5k, that's going to have an effect. But now I think it would be great to talk through some of the ones that we've been sent in by subscribers.
So let's get into your superstitions at home, Sarah.
Right, this one made me laugh. I have to stretch it before my main weekly run after a night of poor sleep because I'm so excited to be going out and about. Makes me lighter and keener.
We're going to name Bob.
You have to
well done, Bob.
You have to what?
Stress shit.
I don't even get this one.
Stress poop.
Yeah, you have a poor night's sleep. You're too excited to get out the next day. You just have that knot of nerves in your stomach, which actually you need to poo out. And therefore you feel lighter and ready to go.
I thought it was kind of more like the colloquial term of you have to stress through stuff. As in
no. As in before Bob heads out on the run.
I just feel like this is a bit too much.
It's too much information.
Hey, look,
hang on, you started the podcast talking about your perineum.
Yeah, we're on podcast 21. We haven't really talked about poo yet.
Yeah, well, perineum's a serious business.
And pooing isn't. I think this makes sense though. The only thing though is have you ever... I got into, if you go for a long run, like in the middle or later part of the day, I will always want to have gone before heading out. And then, but if you get into a routine where you're like, I have to do this, your body is not a thing you can control.
I don't know. I think you can develop a routine.
Saying that. This guy is saying that his superstition is the night before he has to do this.
No, he has to do it on the morning of.
Yeah, after a night of poor sleep.
So like he won't sleep the night before because he's so excited to get going.
So excited.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is sensible though.
Yeah.
I think a pre-race or pre-run poo is vital.
Next.
So this is JP872. I have to race in the same socks or else I worry I will go slow. Also, I don't wash them every race. I wait. So at the end of my season, they have a lot of stored speed. I love this one. This was 100% me. I didn't. There were periods when I didn't race in socks, but when I did, they were the same socks all
Stored
year.
Speed.
Did you wash them though?
Yeah, you did.
Will it make you feel better if I say yes?
No, but I bet you did. You're not the type.
Well, that's
Yeah,
really-
you couldn't
You're
wear.
not- you're
have you
not the
ever
type.
worn a pair of socks 2 days in a row?
No, you're not the type.
What? Hey, what do you mean I'm not the type?
You're-
Oh, he's dodging the question.
No,
he hasn't.
he's clean living.
Andy.
Andy's clean living.
Right, here's your challenge for next week.
What?
Those
Wear all
socks,
so-
you're
wear
going
them
to
all
wear
week.
them tomorrow.
Oh.
See what I mean? See what I mean?
Or
See what
maybe
I
it's a reaction to having a whole season of.
I mean, I just think that's hilarious.
Right, speaking of socks,
Go on.
Chloe said, I always put my left sock on before my right, and not really a superstition, but I only race when my partner is free to be my chauffeur and come for support. Brackets, and he cooks me the same pasta the night before every race.
Oh, that's nice.
What a lovely
Your partner sounds like a legend.
Yeah.
I put my right sock on before my left. but-
Oh, here's a question. I think we featured this in a video before. Are you a sock, shoe? Do you remember this from
Yes.
the monthly show?
Yeah.
Or are you a sock, shoe?
Sock, shoe, shoe.
Yeah, I mean that's anyone that goes sock shoe is a psychopath.
No, but I can see why though. Like if it's middle of summer, you've been walking around the house in your running kit, but you're barefoot,
Yeah.
and then
No,
you're
but-
heading out for the run, I would probably take my socks to my shoes and then go sock, shoe.
Okay, you're a psychopath.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
that's-
we've
that's-
just ascertained that. 21 episodes in, I'm a psychopath.
That's absolutely madness.
Yeah. Got any more?
Yeah.
I mean, this is fun.
Yeah.
Sully says he taps his right heel into the ground 3 times before the start of a race. That's like, what is it? Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah. There's no place like home.
There's no place like home.
And it makes me think of footballers. You see, a lot of footballers as they run onto the pitch, they'll like touch the pitch, or they'll pick up a bit of grass and throw it in the air or something.
Yeah.
It sort of seems like that kind of superstition. I quite like that one.
Yeah, that was quite
It's
cool.
in your control as well.
Pardon?
It's within your
it's
control.
in his
Yeah.
control. Yeah.
Sorry, I've got another one. High-fiving plants on the first kilometre.
Oh my gosh. High-fiving
what about
plants?
if there are no plants?
Well, there's loads in Valencia.
Brilliant. Well, don't give me new superstitions.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to warm up for 4 hours before every run just to get through all my superstitions.
High-fiving plants. Well, what about high-fiving people?
That's more fun, but probably out of your control.
What about if
Gotta
there are
seek
no
out-
people?
Seek out these plants. Be gentle with the plants. Everyone
Yeah.
out there. I've got one from Ian Payton. This is my favourite one. It's very gentle. I hug and kiss each shoe before putting them on. If I show them some fuss, then I hope they'll look after me.
Oh, that's nice. That is nice.
Yeah.
That one
I mean,
is lovely.
But the world of shoes has just changed so much, and now you've probably got to hug them because they're so expensive.
Yes. I've hugged them because you've had to remortgage.
You've had to remortgage your house to pay for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
I never retire my shoelaces before a race. I always think, however I had them tied the practice before worked, so I guess I'll just leave them. I love that.
I love that you
Oh,
read
no,
it as
sorry.
retire. like his shoelaces have worked so hard that he never retires them.
Well, he didn't-
Retie. That
one
was
doesn't
from
make any
Maggie.
that one doesn't make any sense because you'd have to untie them to
I-
take them off,
I think this could be a
Ooh.
person who's slipping their shoes on and off without untying the laces.
which
Or-
is not good for running.
no.
It's not good. I've started doing this recently, and I've been caught out on 2 occasions now where I've always been a finish the run, slip the shoes off, and then I'll retie them for the next run. Recently, I've been in such a rush to get out that I've just put the shoes back on and assumed
Causes
that my,
all sorts of problems.
Yeah, I've had to stop 2-3 times now on a run to retie.
Heel rolling, injuries, the
Yeah.
lot. Don't do that. Don't do that.
do that.
Tie your shoes nice and tightly before you go for a run.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to hear more craziness from anyone listening. Like, if you want to send us stories or superstitions or, of course, questions, then send them to podcast@therunningchannel.com.
One more from Liz. It's imperative I say good morning, Mr. Magpie, to any that I see on my run and salute them.
I like this one. This is not an unusual one. That sounds like it's a very unique thing, but I think, isn't it part of magpies and luck? And there was a rhyme about.
Yeah,
One for sorrow, 2 for joy, 1 for a girl, 1 for a boy.
Yeah.
I think that's magpies.
I
that
think
magpies?
you're
Yeah.
right. Doesn't say anything about saluting though, does it?
No.
Ah.
But hey, add it on.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'd like you both to salute me.
You're not a magpie.
Oh.
You are listening to the Running Channel podcast. We've got your questions coming up very soon, but up next, it's the news.
So it's almost question time where we'll answer the questions that you sent in to podcast@therunningchannel.com. But before we do that, Sarah and I always pick a news story. And I'm going to jump in first with a very quick elite story, which is that Faith Kipyegon broke the 1,500 metre world record for women. The first woman ever to go under 350 at a recent Diamond League meeting, which is incredible. And
Wow.
I have a vested interest in this. This was
Yeah.
my former distance. But just watching it was the most incredible thing.
That when you
350.
break down how fast
Yeah.
that is, that absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah, so it's 15.7 a few hundredths seconds per 100 meters.
What's the men's world record on 1500 meters?
3:26.
Wow.
So yeah, just absolutely phenomenal. They had the lights on the inside of the track, so you could see in the last lap that she was lifting and how she was going faster than the lights. And then bear in mind, Laura Muir, one of the best runners in the world, was second in this race. She ran 3:57, so she was 8 seconds behind, and that looked like a really long way.
Wow, looking good.
Wow, amazing.
Sarah?
Similar elite story, but this is about an incredible race. Comrades is happening this weekend. It is the world's oldest and biggest ultra marathon.
South Africa.
Yeah, South Africa.
Yeah.
In fact, James from the Running Channel is taking it on. Best of luck to him. And he is filming the whole thing. So stay tuned. That video will be coming out on the Running Channel of his whole experience. But I wanted to talk about Camille Heron, who is an incredible ultra runner. Is not
ultra
running.
running legend.
Yeah, she broke the women's record for most distance covered in 48 hours earlier this year. She ran 435.336 kilometers on a lap. So 400 meter track, 1,088.
That was all on the track
times.
over 48 hours.
Yeah.
435 kilometers.
Yeah. Oof. Can you imagine being on a track?
I literally can't imagine.
Like over the course of your career, you've definitely probably.
I can imagine doing it on a bike.
48 hours on the track, but can you imagine doing that all in one go?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely disgusting. But she's announced that she's not running Comrades this year because she wants to take the win potentially at Western States. So she wants to focus on races where she hasn't won them yet, whereas she did win Comrades back in 2017.
Wow, pretty cool to be in that position where you're like, no, I'm just going to focus on winning all the other ones I haven't won. She's won so many. She is incredible.
It must be so hard though with ultras because you can't run them all. But that race looks incredible. So best of luck to her in Western States and best of luck to anyone taking on Comrades.
Amazing.
Time for your questions.
Okay, so kicking off with Sharon, who's emailed in to say, we all talk lots about shoes to actually run in, but there seems to have been a rise in popularity in recovery shoes. What are your thoughts on the benefits of recovery shoes or flip-flops? And have any of you used them? I've seen so many more recovery shoes recently. Even I've seen people bringing them to parkrun on a Saturday morning.
Really?
Serious, yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
I do think there is a lot to be said that the rise in kind of carbon plated, high stack, height shoes, especially for marathons, it's very rare now that I go to a marathon or a big race and when you see people with their drop bags, they haven't got a kind of another pair of shoes in there. And 9 times out of 10, it is that. It's a recovery shoe or a flip-flop or
like
a
some kind of slider,
Yeah. I don't think they are flip-flops because actually there's a bit of science on flip-flops and runners that actually they're really quite bad for your feet.
Yeah, so your classic what Australians would call thongs,
like Havaianas style.
flip-flops. where they go between your big toe and the next toe, because you have to do quite a lot of grabbing with your foot to keep the flip-flop on your foot whilst you're walking. And so from a recovery perspective, plantar fasciitis perspective, all of that sort of stuff, my understanding is that's not great. But sliders and some of the ones that are a bit more supportive, and if you're not planning on, you just got to be sensible here. You can't go and walk very far in them.
No.
So being sensible with where you're going to wear them.
I'd have tried a few kind of specific recovery like sliders, and I do think they make flip-flop versions, but the ones that I've tried, they always have quite a lot of padding underneath the arch of your foot, which actually feels so nice because it's the opposite of a
tight
of a running
trainer.
shoe.
Yeah.
I think you've nailed it by saying the super shoes, just how unstable they can feel, and the longer you run in them in a race, the more you need something sort of supportive and forgiving afterwards. So
yeah, definitely. If you've got big, long races, then just having something, it doesn't have to be as much money as you're spending on your super shoes to get a pair of recovery shoes, but just having something that airs your feet out a little bit.
I'm not across all of the science, but broadly, most recovery stuff, if it makes you feel better, then it's effective. So like that's almost placebo effect. But if something does help you to feel like you're better recovered, then you will be better recovered.
Yeah. It'll also help you at the finish line because I always find it so funny when you've crossed a line and you feel so wobbly. Yeah. And you're like, is this just me? And then you look at all of the other runners and you're like, oh no, they're struggling to walk.
Yes, exactly.
I've got a Hoka with a stack, the size of a high heel, and I feel hot as hell after a race when I put those on.
Incredible.
Anyway, Leah has emailed in to ask, how far should a long run be for half marathon training?
Rick, stay quiet.
Everyone looks at me. So there's no correct answer to this. The distinction between the half marathon and the marathon is that you can, in a marathon, there's no requirement in your long run that you would cover the marathon distance regularly or at all in the build up to it. Whereas in the half marathon, it kind of depends on whether you're trying to do one for the first time or whether you're trying to run a faster one, having done it before.
Yeah.
First time.
So first time, you
10 miles?
I would say is at least 10 miles.
At least 10.
Yeah,
So
if you've got to 10, then you should be confident that you'll be fine to run a half marathon. So don't panic. 10 is fine. But yes, if you want to run a little bit further, you can. And you can just recover from that length of run much more easily than you can from doing 20 miles for a long run for a marathon. And so, but if you were trying to run a faster half marathon, having already
Hit
done
the
it before,
distance.
then you can regularly or at least occasionally touch on the actual half marathon distance.
That's
in
so
training.
intriguing, isn't it? It's so different.
So
to
I would just say
marathon training.
don't beat yourself up as long as you're putting together runs that are 10 miles or so in the build up to a half marathon, then you won't struggle too far with the actual distance on the day. But if you want extra confidence, then it won't hurt you to run the half marathon distance
The whole way.
but not like the week before if this is your first
So
ever
still
half.
Yeah,
two-
you still need to take
2 weeks,
Yeah.
still 2 weeks
Yeah.
before.
And we had a great conversation with Andy Baddeley the other day from a coaching perspective, who actually talked about cycling your weeks, whether that's marathon, half marathon, whatever. Like if you've not run those kind of distances before, thinking about on alternate weeks almost. So if you're increasing your mileage, so you're trying to get up to that 10, 11, 12 mile long run, then you can do that on almost alternate weeks. So that's where you increase the mileage. And then the following week, you sort of drop it back down again to something that's well within your wheelhouse to allow yourself to adapt to what you've done, which might be your furthest ever run the week before.
Nice.
And then step it up again the next week. So it's almost like up, down a little bit to adapt, up, down a little bit to adapt. And every time you go up, maybe go up a fraction more. So when you're starting off, that might be like 6 miles is your longest run. Then 2 weeks later, you'll do 7 miles. 2 weeks later, you'll do 8 miles. And in between, you'll just do something that's comfortable for you.
Sarah, I think that's one of the clearest answers Andy's ever given.
Concise, to the point. The only thing I was going to add is if you've run half marathons before and you're targeting like a new goal or a time that you want to go for, then actually running the full distance, you don't need to run that full distance at your like new target time. You could add in a little bit of like target half marathon pace within that and then still run the full distance as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been listening to the Running Channel podcast. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your support, all of the comments and questions that you send in to us, which really do make the podcast. So please keep sending them in. And if you're happy to, then rate and review the podcast on whichever platform you're listening to. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.